Today, as we continue the conversation on the future of our country, we want to look at some of the new narratives around June 12 and a few issues around the state of the nation. To join me in that important conversation, I have the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, who is also a leading activist in the country and a media mogul. I'd like to welcome back to Inside Sources, Omoyele Sowore.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, thank you for coming. Let's start with this issue of the copper Rita.
Yes.
I know that you are involved. I mean, she had expressed her frustration about, the state of the nation, and then it got into a bit of trouble with the NYSC. It's now being reported that she's not going to be allowed to, I don't know what the word.
Complete her national service.
Yes. Yeah, it's like she's not been cleared to go.
Yes.
What's really going on? I know that you are in touch with her.
Yes, she was invited initially to come and explain why she spoke against the president.
Is this a new invitation or the old one?
No, that was the old one. So we accompanied her, and that was the end of the matter at that point.
This was a couple months ago?
That was, I think it was in March.
Okay.
And so she was left alone. She has just one more month to go. And only for her to reach out a few days ago that she's been invited by a disciplinary committee. And she, of course, appeared before the disciplinary committee.
She's serving in Lagos.
She's serving in Lagos. And upon completion of her meeting with them, they refused her clearance, which means that she will not be allowed to complete her national service in July and have a personal parade, which is a ceremony
for everybody,
for everyone to say you're done and done a good job. So they typically would not write you a letter. They would just wait until that day and let you know that you are not entitled to that certificate.
You had an experience yourself.
I did.
Was it 96 or 97?
96 in Yola, Adamawa State. I was waiting to collect my NYSC discharge certificate, and I was arrested by the DSS. Until today, never got my NYSC discharge certificate.
Well, I'm sure you never needed it.
Well, I'm still doing national service.
Exactly. In your own way. So what's going to happen to Rita now?
Well, we have done everything we can to reach out to the authorities in Abuja, in NYSC, to not embarrass themselves, because this might lead to a no return, no personal parade kind of protest.
Yeah.
Which would mean that everybody would have to be with her on that day and ensure that she's giving her certificate, because she's entitled to it. And I'm sure her certificate is already printed in her name. Even if her term is extended, the certificate will still read the day you are supposed to originally. So this is completely insane. That's how I want to describe it. That someone who stood up and said, hey, things are hard in the country, which is true, you then try to punish her. And don't forget that it was after her outburst and her social media post that youth corpers who were paid 33,000 naira before then got paid 77, they got upgraded to 77,000 naira minimum wage for corpers, or what they call Alawi.
Alawi, that's
so they should all be, her colleagues should be proud of her, the country should be grateful to her. And as I described it yesterday night, this is actually national service to speak truth to power.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we have to express the worry about what some people have actually described as the shrinking space for civil.
It's unbelievable
dialogue.
That is happening with the I call them our friends, our frenemies, who came on the back of fighting for human rights. Pro-democracy, people who had engaged in protests several times, people who had, done things that could be described as treason. Now, some of them actually haven't been originally cited for treason, and they're using the same government under a democratic era to victimize citizens as largely as they're doing now. It's just unspeakable, horrible, and unconscionable conduct on their part. But I don't think they have conscience. Today, before we came here, I was also in court with some of the young people, some of them a little older, who were arrested in August of 2024 for participating in
the governance protest.
They are still on trial for treason.
So that case, I thought the Attorney General entered Nole, Nole prosecution.
For the minors.
For the minors, okay.
But he has refused to enter knowledge
for the non-minors.
The non-minors. Yes, the comrades. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's. I mean, the point that I like to make is that I do know that it's, I haven't served in government. At times, it's possible that the people doing this are not the high-ups, but this is the opportunity they get to fix it, because just like you said, I mean, many of the president in particular, we know of his democratic credentials, and if he's not part of what is happening now, including what is happening to Rita, I think this is an opportunity to step up and make sure that the lady is not harassed for speaking her mind under a democratic government, And just like you also said, even these protesters, if they have any evidence, maybe tell us what happened in court.
As it's typical of the Nigerian police, they came and asked for an adjournment, claiming that the man who originated the case, one police officer, Simon Law, SAN, who was kicked out of the police and is also going to be facing charges for falsification of documents and age very soon by the same Nigerian police, that because he left with some of the files and they need more time to
I hope people
reorganize and commence the trial properly. But this has always been their strategy to waste time. So I was in court. It was a very tense outing between them. The lawyer from Femi Falana's chambers, Marshal Abubakar, Deji Adeyonju, and the police lawyers. They were slugging it out.
But are the defendants, they're not under detention?
No, they've been granted bail.
Okay.
But most of them have had their accounts frozen, properties like their phones were taken from them. So
and they've not been restored?
They've not been restored because they claim they're going to use them for evidence in the trial. And the trial has not gone anywhere in 1 year. They haven't.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, I would still say that, these are not the kind of credentials that are helpful for somebody like the president, and if the president were not aware, well, this is what is happening, and it's important to give these people fair treatment. And if they have charges against them, why not? Don't delay the time. Don't waste people's time.
They don't have any charges, and I keep challenging the so-called democratic credential of the president. I don't know why people say that all the time. The fact that people were swept up in the struggle for democracy circumstantially doesn't mean that they have democratic credentials. And don't forget, there's been a lot of back and forth between the president and his team of people saying, look, you are not the Democrats. We were together with Abacha.
We are going to get to that. And that's actually the theme of the, we talk about it. I just wanted also to clear a few other issues, such as the Benue killings. Now the Inspector General of Police, your very good friend, has brought out, I think, about 26 suspects. Many people say that that's interesting. Must you wait for the president to do your job? But I say, okay, well, look, if they are doing their jobs now, let them do it all the way and prosecute these guys, and let's know what's going on. What's your take?
See, what you must investigate first and foremost whenever police arrest people is to try and find out whether those people are actually participants in the crime. I'm very close to how the police people work. They can go and arrest people. In fact, they can go into the cell and bring people that have been detained before and present them as these are the killers, because they know that at this point they have to present some kind of set of persons who are responsible for the killings in Benue. So I'm yet to find out on my own, independently, that these are the people. But if it is true that these people are arrested, the next stage is diligent prosecution. And not just prosecution, to find out where they get weapons from and who are behind them. Because you don't just kill 200 people without some kind of backing. And so I'm very skeptical about police declarations when it comes to arresting suspects, people. So because I know them very well, they can make up any story just to please the public, and afterwards they disappear.
That is one issue that I felt that, something that I really considered quite unconscionable, the kind of killings going on, especially in Benue and
I know we discussed it here on your show the last time, but there must be something to these killings that are, beyond what you and I, the ordinary eyes, can see. But there's nothing beyond the fact that there are very powerful individuals who carry out these killings, who arm the killers. And there's also an agenda to it, which is either ethnic cleansing or land grab. That's why you hear official position, and I don't know if Nigerians pay attention to this, saying on one end you say, oh, stop the killing, on the other there's a conciliatory position that why don't you just bring them together and discuss how to resolve this? How do you sit down with killers,
murderers,
and and give them some kind of official position on the table to discuss why they are killing and why they should stop?
It's ridiculous. You remember, I think it was former governor of Kaduna, El-Rufai, who actually came out then to say that they had to actually go and pay some
pure Fulani herdsmen.
And
so that they can stop killing.
Some kind of settle them, and so that just tells you the kind of decadence that has happened, among our politicians. But that's another take. I want us to talk about the June 12th, what happened in June 12th. I know that you were in my own estimation, one of the leading youth leaders in the country at that time. I know that you had your own interactions even with MK Abiola during the struggle. And when the list of the people to be honored was out, I felt that somebody like you ought to be mentioned. And then I saw your reaction that even if you were honored, you were going to sue the president or something like that.
I would have sued for defamation of character because
but it's not about.
It would be injurious to my character to accept honor from people I consider to be dishonorable.
Okay.
Yes.
But in your own view, there has been quite a lot of arguments. So, for instance, somebody like Chief Adekunle Ajasin's name was excluded. Babafemi Ojudu's name was excluded. Even the General Secretary of NADECO, Ayo Padokun's name was excluded. There were quite a few other names, Olisa Agbakoba. I even know of Jumoke Ogunkayede, who led the struggle in the US. I reported that one actively. The naming of that Nigerian, the corner of Nigerian house, corner by the New York City Council, it was Ogunkayede. So I know that there are a lot of people. The question that I wanted to ask you is that, what is the best way, in your own view, to kind of recognize the heroes of June 12th?
I don't think it should just be about recognizing the heroes of June 12th. I think June 12th needs comprehensive forensic, investigation, and to determine. You see, this kind of events don't happen in any country more than once, and then in most countries they will shut down, fix it before they even move on. June 12 was a despicable act of injustice done against the Nigerian democratic progress at that point. So people were killed, people were arrested unjustly, businesses were destroyed, the march of the country towards economic progress was interrupted, money was stolen, and so there should have been a panel first set up to look at what happened throughout the June 12th. Documented.
Different from Okuta panel?
No. Okuta panel was a general panel that looked at military abuses. It didn't discuss many things. I'm talking about something that is also forensic. It's not something you just dismiss. You set up, and I'm not saying something public hearing alone. Of course, there could be a portion of it that's public hearing.
Right.
But to look at how many people really died during June 12th. Who killed them? What were the circumstances? Who was the election won? Who won the election?
Well, we know that already.
We know that. And I don't know if they've declared Abiola president yet.
Well,
but he should be officially declared a president.
He's dead.
Well, it doesn't matter, because families of dead presidents are also entitled to certain recognition. Let his family also enjoy that. So he has, all this should be discussed. Up to the students who got expelled from the university, all this should be documented by the Nigerian state and then put in one place. June 12 should be taught as a course from primary school to secondary school, to say this is what happened to us. It's just like going to South Africa and saying that you don't know anything about apartheid, or that we shouldn't talk about apartheid. They're still investigating apartheid till tomorrow. Yes. The Jews are still investigating what Hitler did to them in Germany. So why should something of that magnitude just be glossed over? That is why the likes of Babangida are writing books. Yes, and it's very interesting. Maybe the starting point is to look at everybody in that hall who came to Babangida's book launch. First of all, put them aside and say, come and explain what you knew about the annulment of the June 12th. How did you benefit from it, or how did they affect you? Because so many of them even came out openly and said, well, we really enjoyed ourselves. So, but of particular note will be those who were killed.
Yeah.
To let us have closure, those who disappeared.
Yeah.
And for everybody who is still around, who was in the military services, the police, we call them, whether you are 80-something years old, because the people who committed atrocities during the civil rights era, they are still facing the consequences of their action. I remember, I think, when the U.S. went, an 84-year-old guy was arrested and jailed for the bombing of the Birmingham church.
Yeah.
Maybe he died now, but this must be some 10 years ago.
I remember that.
So you can't just have closure without inquiry. That's the point I'm making, and that will be my position on June 12th. And then to compensate people, not national award only. I know of a guy whose leg was cut off during June 12th. He's still alive. There should be a fund set aside to compensate everybody who lost something. That's because you can't give everybody national award. And yes, this is not. I mean, this part of the reason I can never accept a national. It's like it has become what Nigerians call war. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry gets a national award. I can't even associate myself with it. Apart from the fact that I generally don't like awards, but this is how I think the June 12th era should be approached.
Yeah,
critically and intellectually and historically.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that, and I've also called for that on this program, that there should be some kind of truth commission.
It may not necessarily be a truth commission, because for me, truth commission sounds a little bit esoteric,
because
and it's also this one we are not reconciled. We just want to find. This should be a fact-finding mission to find out what went wrong with everybody. Who pulled the trigger, who gave orders. Because some of them are still around.
Yeah.
That is why people like Mustafa can run for president, because he just look at you and laugh at you and say, we shot and killed some of you.
Yeah.
You know that some of those guys he was using at that time, and I confronted them once openly. They're still with him till today.
Oh, wow.
Yes. The guy who was accused of exposing Kudirat's location to them is still with Mustafa.
Wow.
They're still hanging around.
That's the guy
who was Kudirat's PA. Is now Mustafa's bodyguard, or one of his many bodyguards.
Wow.
You are hearing it from me. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow. That's so I mean, certainly
most of those BG guys are still around him. Yes.
Wow. That's a serious one.
Yes.
That's a serious one. Anyway, let's move along. Point well made. I just also don't think that we have done it right, Sha.
At all.
I don't. So
we're just, this is just haphazard, and that's what you mentioned. Yeah, let's use this occasion to just remember some people, and exclude the ones that are not too nice, so that we send a message to them that we don't tolerate the way they are behaving and all that. And because it's done in a haphazard way, maybe they just ask one person last minute, please, can you compile a list? And the person will remember that Ojuju offended him. And Agbakoba did not support us during the election. And and whomever. So that's what happened to this ad hoc leadership arrangements.
My view is that the least, I mean, for the aspect of honoring people, should have nothing to do with the whims and caprices.
That is if the list is prepared by honorable people.
Yes. Anyway, but what do you think about what Sule Lamido, the former governor of Jigawa, who was the secretary of SDP, who made some very, I think quite ridiculous claim.
Yeah.
What's your take?
So some of the claims that Lamido made may sound outlandish. That's Lamido's style, They might have gone to him and said, look, we need somebody to say something outlandish, and he decided to say it. But we must not also ignore some of the truths in it, that Tinubu was close to Abacha. The reason I'm saying so is that I also listened to Olagunsoye Oyinlola.
What did he say?
He spoke in Yoruba. I just watched it this morning, where he said Tinubu was supposed to be his deputy. If Abacha hadn't died, they had this arrangement where they want to have a diarchy, where there will be a military governor and Tinubu was supposed to be Tinubu was supposed to be his deputy.
You never said that publicly?
Yes, you can look for it. Yes, he just said that publicly. I watched it this morning. It's a recent interview. So I know that. And also, as I was stated, and you were in the US at that time, that
I was here.
I mean, in 1999, maybe.
Oh, okay, 1999, yes. Yeah, of course, I was in.
One of the things that happened in 1999 that was bizarre was that
this was now under
Abubakar.
Yeah.
These same Tinubu people were so close to Abdulsalami. The first international award they arranged for him, or honor, was at the Chicago State University.
Was Tinubu involved in that?
Of course. Tinubu was involved in that. I'm sure he's the one who recommended his university, his so-called university. But Oshoba was there. In fact, I confronted Oshoba because we went to protest. I confronted Oshoba.
I was there.
Yes, that was the day Kayode Oladele served Abubakar the lawsuit, accusing him of killing Abiola. We were outside.
And Abubakar had to settle that case at the end.
Yes.
Because...
But I don't think he couldn't get rid of the case.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to tell you is that they were close to the military. There's no question about the fact that they were close to the military guys. Because, and this is the reason I said so, that regardless of what you said, but I have my own issue with Lamido. Lamido sold out June 12th. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
With Aneni and all of that. That's who they are. Even Jonathan Zwigina sold out. And Zwigina was Abiola's communication director at campaigns.
Right.
All of them, up to Babagana Kinjibe, they sold Abiola out. But they are also trying to rewrite the history. Reason being that they thought that this June 12th history will go away.
Yeah.
They thought that June 12th is just going to disappear. But they are surprised that it keeps coming back at them. And that the new generation of younger persons are discovering their perfidy. That's why you see they're saying it's not me alone. No, all of us did it.
Yeah, and that's why.
So, but I also think that Lamido was trying to be outlandish and trying to be political. If anybody sold out June 12th, first and foremost, it was Lamido and the rest. But do I doubt that Tinubu and the rest of them had back channels with the military? I have no doubt about it.
Okay, let me give you my own take. Because I have also thought about it, and that's the reason why I also wanted to discuss it with someone like you. You're on the ground. Now, I was also on the ground up until 98.
Yes.
Now, the way I read it is that when Abacha was going to take over government, he had some inroads with Afenifere leaders, civil, through Dia.
Dr. Becker told me that Dia was communicating with him.
Okay, So let me make
Abacha wanted to but the civil rights movement, pro-democracy movement, wants everybody that you can't trust Abacha.
Just with Sowore, so that I will lay it out and then you will have a full. So, Dia was meeting, some people. They brought in Ulonogurua.
Yes.
Ulonogurua accepted because he wanted to do a sovereign national conference. They told him that they would do it.
Yes.
Even Chief M.K. Abiola himself seems to have nominated some way.
The cabinet that Abacha first used was largely what I think Abiola was going to use as his own cabinet if he had been sworn in.
So let me lay out the issues. So there was some kind of quote unquote agreement, some deal with Abacha because MKO felt that Abacha was going to give it to him.
Hand over power.
Right.
Yes.
So that seems to be. I don't think you can accuse anybody who was involved in that, in my view, of selling out because MKO himself was involved. But wait, don't wait. You will come back. Let me finish it. But after it was clear,
yes, that
Abacha is not going to do what was agreed. Of course, we knew what happened to Oluonogoro and his son and all of that. The Nadeko leaders said, okay, look, now we've seen that this guy, Afenifere also said, this guy, Abacha, is not going to do what was agreed. Come out. Do you remember, Sowore?
Yes.
He said, come out. Come out of the government. Now, that was, in my view, that was where we can really now say that, okay, if we thought that Abacha was going to, with Dia, we're going to do the thing, we're going to have a deal, and they got there, and they didn't do it, and we now said, come out, and you didn't come out. In my view, the people who did not come out are actually those that sold out. And to be fair to President Tinubu, yes, I also think that he was also interested in something in Lagos. There's no doubt about that. What's his name? Kola.
Yes.
Kola Abiola has talked about it.
Exactly. I was going to mention Kola
on the record to say that, yeah, he wanted to be military administrator or deputy or commissioner. I think, but to the extent that MKO himself was involved in the government of Abacha, I think that one can be overlooked. What we shouldn't overlook is that after everybody now saw that this was not going to happen the way we felt, and Afenifere and Nadeko said, come out. Those who did not come out, in my view, those are the real people that sold out.
No, where I disagree is that, right. And this is why I'm calling for a comprehensive forensic review of what happened during June 12th. Because some of these truths we'll find, and that some of the people you think are innocent are not innocent of involvement with Abacha or involvement with, all kinds of back channel dealing. I still find it curious today that someone like Tinubu is very close to Babangida, who annulled the election of the person he said is the best, which is Abiola, his candidate.
But Babangida sent him to jail too.
Who sent him? Who didn't Babangida send to jail?
Exactly.
As young as I was.
Exactly.
Babangida sent us to jail when I was 21 years old.
At the drop of a hat.
They sent us to jail. They expelled me from the university. Sending people to jail is not Babangida's problem. He even said it that when he came and Gani was giving him problems, he looked at it and said, everybody has sent this guy to jail. Let me send him to jail too. But the real issue is for us to also not ignore so many of these chatters that are coming out of people who knew what went down during June 12th. Because in doing this very critical analysis of their positions, we might find out the reason why we have a democracy. We're supposed to have a democracy, but we don't have a democracy because the practitioners never believed in democracy.
I hope that the president can do what is right. He still has the opportunity. He has 2 good years to fix this thing. And it will be the best thing that he did if he ever did. But hey, we'll see what happens. Thank you so much.
My response to that is grab the book that says hope is not a strategy.
Thank you so much, Omoyele Sowore, for coming to Inside Sources. And thank you for the hard work that you do, speaking truth to power and, trying to push this country in that direction that we all believe it ought to go, which is what I also believe, that Nigeria is a great country. Clearly, our destiny is far better than where we are today.
Absolutely.
And we will not give up.
We won't.
That's why I didn't go back to New York, by the way.
Well,
we're going to stay here.
We will stay here and make sure our country works.
Absolutely.
So that we too can become a nation that would earn the respect of the entire world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we deserve it.
We do. We do deserve it. Thank you so much for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me.
All right.